Okay. Any one of you in this state of mind? Near to it? Why I started with this really to show the fact that really, if you think about it, life is really war. You dig deep into it. Love in itself is war. Business, rocking people, marketing, and that's what we're talking about today, right? And this is absolutely true. A failure to plan is a plan for failure. So essentially, that's the same thing with brands, right? In the business of brands and brand building, etc., we all need a plan, right? And I'm in the business of creating plans, helping them create plans. So one of the roles of an ad strategist really is being the architect of warfare. You've got to look at it as warfare. You've got to have this combative viewpoint because that's the reality of it. So whilst we seem to be in peacetime, the business of commerce, brands, and marketing, it really is warfare. Only in ties and suits, that's all. And having a plan is to organize every single detail. The complexities of war is such that you've got to know what you're fighting for to start with. So a planner's role really is to dig into and work together with account management and say, what does the client need to do, right? What warfare are we going into? There's a lot of details that go into it. You've got to know who you're going after. What are we fighting over, right? Are we fighting over land? Are we fighting over water? Are we fighting over people, right? When it comes to warfare, right? And we've all got different strengths. Different brands have different strengths. What are we going to deploy, right? Are we going to deploy an army of 2,000? Or is it just one ninja fellow going in there and assassin and kill 2 people or 5 people, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of details that go into strat planning, right? You need to look at the details, who you're targeting, your consumer. You've got to understand your consumer. You've got to understand the landscape that you're fighting in. You've got to understand the objectives. And like David rightly said earlier, sometimes a client comes to you, comes to the agent and say, I want a big warfare. I'm going to kill the Kublai Khans of the world. And I want to do it in 5 months. But then you need to sit down and work closely and figure out exactly what the brand needs. Does it need to kill all these Kublai Khan fellas? Or actually, they should fight the little Japanese fellas on the little island, right? So you got to dig deep into the client's business to understand what they actually need to achieve and how to achieve that, right? So there's a lot of different perspectives. And then in warfare, it's not so straightforward. There are different types of wars. It's not all one type. Sometimes we work with clients who are brand leaders, category leaders, sorry. So for instance, it could be a Nike, it could be, Singapore Airlines, right? They are leaders. But they don't sit pretty in a leadership position. They have to defend themselves. Because the worst thing that can happen is you sit there like a sitting duck, and then you have competitors coming in and shooting arrows in your backside. So you need to defend. You're always on defense. And in defense, you really also need to think about new territories to fight, because that's how you stay ahead, right? Sometimes you work with brands who are what we call wannabes. They're not quite leaders yet. They're fighting to be the leader. These guys are aggressive, right? They'll throw everything at it to be that leader. So these guys are also working hard, killing each other, the peers, and fighting for this guy's share of market. There's also another type that you can work with. They're the new brands. They come in, they scare the shit out of these wannabes and they scare the shit out of the leaders. Why? Suddenly the two of them, they say, bloody hell, I thought I leader, now this fella come along. Who the hell is this fella? Right? Then this fella's like, ayyo, I thought I was working so damn hard to go and fight with this leader. Now they got new fella to go fight with me. So you have different types of new brands coming into the market. You've got fighter brands, you've got leaders. They all are in warfare. Nobody sits pretty, right? So we need planners to help them fight. But there's more to planning than just devising battle plans. Because if you're just doing that, I would say to a radio or any agency, go hire from military school. Don't hire us. All you need is a military man, right? But there are different facets to being a strategist in an ad agency. One of it is actually a creative muse, right? What we mean by this is you need to inspire. You need to be the creative's good friend in the agency. They are the ones who are going to create magic. You need to set the plan for them to create the magic that will become work that you saw just now, the Volkswagen, the Andes beer. They come up with those. So, okay, this is a bad cartoon. It doesn't mean they're empty-headed, but sometimes they're short of inspiration, right? So a strat planner needs to be the friend of the creative to help inspire the ideation. Share with them creative case studies, talk to them, need to brainstorm. You also need to nurture the explorations. Creative minds are never tidy. The journeys that they take is never straightforward, right? I feel for them because I was a creative person. So they will meander, they will have to explore, right? And you need to let them do that, right? So that their journeys come to a point that makes sense. But you also need to be the one that says, here are the expectations. As a planner who has set a battle plan, you kind of know where you want your brand to be. You kind of know where that vision is. You need to have that spirit at least. If you don't see the solution, at least you see the spirit. You've got to keep the creative guys geared towards that direction, right? So if they go away too much, you've got to bring them back, right? You've got to corral them a little bit, right? That's when they feel, okay, my journey is reaching somewhere, right? So that's one area of being an ad strategist. The other area which is very important is being the agent for the consumer. Why we say that is this. When we go into battle for any client, we always focus on the consumer. If you don't make that communication stick with the consumer's going to buy, right? They're going to switch off, right? Then all your advertising money is wasted, right? So being the agent of the consumer is not something that we only do within the agency. That means remind each other, remind the creative person or the account management of who the target audience is, what the target audience insight is. But you also remind the client. You'll be surprised. Oftentimes, we do that with the clients. They have a lot of objectives. Sometimes they lose sight of who the consumer is, what works well with the consumer. We have to be the one that sits in the place of being the consumer, remind them who they are. Keep everyone focused. Okay, so we represent the consumer in all the process. Now, outside the job functions I described, whether it's a creative muse, whether you are the architect of warfare, in a nutshell, you are a tree surgeon because you look at the details, you study the market, you study the brand, you study the target audience, you study all those things, the problem of the brand. But at the same time, you need to keep the perspective of being also a forest surveyor. You need to have the ability to step out and see the bigger picture, right? That's the whole part of being a planner. If you can't see what you are working towards, then you failed, right? You've got to know what you're fighting towards, who your ecosystem you're working within the brand, right? Who are your brand allies? What's the landscape? What does an ad strategist actually enjoy in the job? There are many rewards, actually many rewards. Some overlap into account management and creative. You get the chance to do great work, But I think the one thing that I speak on, because I believe in that, is actually this. It's a privilege, that you gain to help build brands that are great, that people believe in, and people respect, or people love. And I really mean by that privilege. It's not something that you gain just like that. People bestow you that trust. And it's great when some brands stay with you for years and years and they believe in you. And that's when you know you're doing a good job. The clients will stay on with you, despite many other competitors, your competitors banging on the door, and they say, no, thank you, we'll stay with you. That's a great privilege at all. So that's what I really believe in. So if you're considering this as a career, a person who's actually got what it takes is this. You start out by having a huge curiosity about everything. It's a way of life, in fact. You just believe that you need to learn everything. Everything is fresh, everything is new. You never stop learning. If you have the belief, you're really one step very close. The other area is that you have to be very open-minded, right? In a business like this, I was saying earlier to Wen King, that you almost need to have a little sense of innocence and naivety, right? That keeps you very open-minded, because you never know where the nuggets of truth, the nuggets of insights and information come from. And aside from that is also having to temper that openness to know what's right from wrong. So whilst I say it's not non-judgmental, you still need to know what's right from what's almost right. You've got to have a lot of dedication. I echo a bit what David says. You've got to have the passion This is not a career you go into and say, I'll do 9 to 5 and that's it, I'm off, right? You keep chasing. If you haven't got it, you keep chasing, you keep pushing. The other thing is you need to have an enormous love for brands. It's very strange because brands are not people. Why do you love brands? But you've got to have the capacity to see brands that for the soul that they will have. You know, you have to protect that in the brand. You need to protect it from sometimes from your own clients, right? They get caught up with all the 30% increase share, you know, that kind of thing. Also, you get to enjoy this. You love telling clients what to do. You can do that when you know what you're talking about. You know the brands as much as the client, if not more sometimes. And that's what the planner needs to do, to immerse into brands. Passion for research and data. It's a tedious thing, you know, but if you like research and you believe there are stories to be told in data, hey, good, very good. And you have a belief that nothing truly good was ever easy. Again, it goes back to the dedication. You keep pushing at it and live to eat. Now, it is twofold. One fold where Ragni is concerned. We then love food. If you love food, you just can join our culture. But it's actually a metaphor for life. If you enjoy life, right, you have other interests. You're not just all about work. You have your hobbies, you've got your recreations, you've got whatever, your pets, whatever. That's the balance you need to have. Because to do this job, you've got to enjoy life. You've got to enjoy people. The way, you know, when you apply that thinking to brands, you've got to enjoy the brands. So if you're multifaceted, it also informs your work, right? I have a very different background. I was an art director. I started my career as an art director for well over 10 years. Yeah. Then I went into research because to me that was a way into understanding more strat planning. So I shadowed a strat planner. I did research a few years, and then I went into strat planning. I don't think we've ever stopped paying our dues, right? And I actually cringe when people say after 2 years, 3 years, oh, I've paid my dues, I'm ready for promotion, pay me, feed me, whatever. I don't think any of us have stopped paying our dues deep down inside. And that's great, that's what drives us. So you need to have that in you, right? So if you've got all this, we can talk. So anyway, that concludes my little talk on strategy.